Hello everyone, Chapter 2. Growling in his belly woke Greyway. The pangs of hunger had seemed even sharper since Stoneteller's announcement a few sunrises ago. And the cavern had stopped buzzing with discussions about whether it was a good idea to leave and what the new place might be like. Still curled up in his sleepy hollow, Greywing could hear excited chatter from cats nearby. What do you think we'll get to hunt? Greywing recognized Dabblepelt's voice. Maybe different kinds of birds, or those squirrels that the elders put in their stories. We'll have to be careful. That was Cloudspot, sounding thoughtful as usual. If we eat too much, we'll get too fat to hunt, and then where will we be? Greywing heard a snort of laughter from Snowhair. That's a problem I'd like to have. He lifted his head to see three cats sitting close together, with Tall Shadow, who extended her black furred limbs gracefully as she rose to her paws. I wonder what new hunting techniques we'll need to learn. It's bound to be different in the new place. Well, you've always been good at creeping around, Snowhair mewed teasingly. You'd be able to sneak up on your prey while it's asleep. Tall Shadow gave her chest a complacent lick. I just might do that. Scrambling out of the sleeping hollow, Greywing shook scraps of moss and feather from his pelt and arched his back in a good long stretch. He decided to go hunt. There's no point in wondering about prey somewhere else when we need to eat now. Sunlight came slanting into the cave, turning the screen of water into a dazzling sparkle. As Greywing emerged from the path behind the fall, he saw that the sky was clear blue. Greywing's pads tingled at the beauty of the peaks outlined against it. He took great gulps of the cool to crisp air, relishing the way it felt like water against his fur. How could I leave all this? Continuing along the snow-packed ledge, hardened by the paw steps of many cats, Greywing heard voices coming from somewhere above. Brightstream, you have to come with me. Looking up, he spotted Clear Sky and Brightstream at the top of the cliff where the water poured over the lip of the rocks. It'll be great, Clear Sky went on, exploring new places together. Brightstream turned her head away. I don't know. This is my home, and we've survived so far. Don't you want more than just surviving? Clear Sky asked, curling his tail persuasively around Brightstream's shoulders. I want to go, but it won't be the same without you. Brightstream's eyes shone, but she shook her head. I've still got a few days to decide, she mewed. Leaving Clear Sky gazing after her, she bounded lightly down the rocks. Despite himself, Greywing's heart quickened as he saw her approaching. She's lovely, but she'll be Clear Sky's mate one day. He's a lucky Tom, that's for sure. Can I hunt with you? Brightstream asked as she leaped off the last rock to stand at Greywing's side. Just don't be like Clear Sky and pester me about leaving the mountains with shade and moss. I won't, Greywing promised. I haven't made up my own mind yet. For once, I wish you poor hunting, Clear Sky called down from the top of the rocks. Then you'll realize that we have to leave. Greywing gave him a good-humored wave of his tail and headed for the ridge. Brightstream scrambled after him. As they drew closer to the summit, icy wind blasted their fur and scoured the snow from the rocks, leaving them bare and gray. Dark, yellowish clouds massed on the horizon, promising more snow to come. With his back to the gale, Greywing gazed around and spotted three more cats farther down the valley. Tiny black shapes, too far away for him to distinguish who they were. Pursuing a hawk that flew low over the slopes and gradually drew out of sight. Brightstream's voice broke the vast silence of the mountains. Greywing, what do you think about Stoneteller's dream? Greywing hesitated before replying. I don't know, he confessed at last. Can Stoneteller really have discovered a new place for us to live without know exactly where it is? Why haven't other cats had the same dream? Maybe it's only something Stonekiller. Maybe it's only Stoneteller can do, Redstream suggested. She paused, blinking thoughtfully. Greywing could see anxiety in her beautiful green eyes. I love living in the mountains, she went on. In spite of the cold and hunger, I've always imagined I'd raise my kids here. But then I always imagined their father would be Clear Sky. As she finished speaking, she turned her head away, giving her shoulder a couple of embarrassed licks. Greywing was surprised that she had confessed so much to him. She was always perfectly confident and self-contained. He felt a stab of envy that she had the courage to put aside her own hopes and dreams to travel into the unknown with Clear Sky, and that her bond with his brother was so strong. Before he could decide what to say, Redstream gave her pelt a shake. You should probably forget I said all that, she meowed. And don't you dare tell Clear Sky. I don't want him to think I made a decision yet. I won't say a word, Greywing promised. I'm being torn too, he thought. Clear Sky and I have always done everything together. And I have to choose between going with them or staying here with the rest of my kin. In this place I've always called home. A flicker of movement distracted him from his problems. Snow Hare! Spinning around, he raced across the slope after his prey. Its thick white pelt hid against the snow, but it stood out clearly when scampering over the rocks of the wind-blown ridge. Brightstream joined the chase, but Greywing outpaced her, relishing the feeling of the wind in his whiskers as he sped over the rocks. With a final mighty leap, he flung himself onto his prey. The hare's squeal of panic was cut off as Greywing's jaws met in its throat. Great catch, Brightstream panted. You're so fast. It's not bad. Greywing mewed, prodding his prey with one paw. For once, there seemed to be some flesh on its bones. We can eat and still take some back to the cave. He and Brightstream settled down side by side and enjoy the catch. As they feasted, he took in the magnificent peaks and valleys that stretched in front of them. You're going to stay, aren't you? Brightstream asked, fixing him with her clear green gaze. Greywing took a deep breath. Yes, I am. When they had eaten their fill, the two cats picked up the remains of the hare and headed back toward the cave. Triumph flooded through Greywing at the thought of feeding his tribe mates. When the waterfall came in sight, he spotted a group of cats toiling up in the slope toward them. Shaded Mouse was in the lead, with Clear Sky pounding along at his shoulder. Tall Shadow, Dapple Pelt, and Rain Sunflower followed close behind. Turtletail brought up the rear. Hi, Clear Sky meowed as the group came up. Hey, you got a hare! Greywing gave a nod of satisfaction. Yes, we're just taking it back. We're climbing up to the ridge, Clear Sky explained, sweeping his tail around to include his companions. We want to look for the best way to get out of the mountains toward the sunrise. Are you joining us? Turtletail asked, bounding up to Greywing's side. Greywing hesitated. He was sure now about his decision to stay, but he didn't want to share it with the other cats just yet. We're tired from hunting, he replied. Maybe later. Entering the cave, Greywing could feel how restless his tribe mates were. Some were gathered in little groups around the edges of the cavern, talking together in hushed voices. Others paced to and fro as they were too anxious to settle. There was no sign of Stoneteller. Do you think they're really going to leave? Stone Song muttered as he and his mate Hollow Tree padded past. I guess so, Hollow Tree responded. Are they fleet-brained? They have no idea what's out there, or whether the place they're looking for even exists. Greywing knew that they spoke for many of the tribe. He wished that Stoneteller had never had a vision, or that she had never spoken of it. Doesn't she know how it's tearing the tribe apart? But why can't I go? Jagged Peak was heading for the cave entrance, only to be intercepted by Quiet Rain. For the last time, his mother meowed, her tail twitching impatiently. You're too little to be out of the cave. It's not fair! Jagged Peak's shoulder bristled as he glared at his mother. Come on, Jagged Peak. Snow Hare patted up, dipping her head to Quiet Rain as she approached. I'll show you a new game. Let's see if you can catch the stone. She swiped her paw and sent a flat pebble skimming across the floor of the cave. Jagged Peak pelted after it with an excited squeal. Thanks, Stone Hare, Quiet Rain murmured. I can't let him go out while there's deep snow on the ground. You're welcome, the elder responded. Greymane carried the remains of the hare over to his mother and dropped it at her paws. Here, do you want some? He asked. Quiet Rain purred her gratitude. That's a fine catch, she told him. I'll take some of it to Floating Bird. Her voice quivered as she added, she couldn't get out of the nest this morning, but she'll be much better after she's had something to eat. Greymane followed his mother as she carried the hare across the cave to the sleepy hollow where Floating Bird was curled up. Are you going with Shaded Moss? Quiet Rain asked him as she set the prey down at the edge of the hollow. I know Clear Sky will go. She was clearly trying to speak lightly, but her words ended with a sorrowful sigh. I'm staying, Greymane told her, touching her ear with his nose. This is my home. I want to catch enough prey so that the rest of us can survive. Many moons ago, our ancestors left the lake and came here. I can't believe that was for no reason. Quiet Rain rested her muzzle on top of his head. I'm so proud of you, she murmured. For a few heartbeats, Greymane felt the same sense of comfort and security as when he was a small kid, suckling on his mother's belly. Stooping over the sleeping hollow, Quiet Rain licked Fluttering Bird's shoulder. Wake up, little one, she mewed. I've got some food for you. A sharp pang of anxiety stabbed through Greymane as he looked at Fluttering Bird. She hardly seemed to be breathing. Fluttering Bird! Quiet Rain prodded her with one forepaw, but the kid still didn't wake. Greymane, fetch Stoneteller, his mother said, panic in her voice. Greymane sped off across the cave and plunged down the tunnel that led into the cavern of the pointed stones. He had only been there once before, and he slowed as he reached the entrance, overcome by awe in spite of his urgency. Creeping into the cave, he saw narrow beams of sunlight slanting through the hole in the roof, lighting the columns of stone that stretched upward for many tail legs. Pools on the ground reflected the sunlight, and the huge hollow space was filled with the sound of steadily dripping water. At first, Greymane couldn't see Stoneteller. Then he spotted her sitting in the shadows, her tail wrapped around her paws and her eyes closed. Is she asleep? He wondered as she approached. But as he drew closer, Stoneteller opened her eyes. Greymane, is something wrong? She mewed. It's Fluttering Bird. Greymane explained, his heart beating fast. She won't wake up. At once, Stoneteller rose to her paws. Turning to a crack in the rock, she took out a few shriveled leaves. Greymane caught a glimpse of her pitifully small store and knew there would be no more healing herbs until the snow melted and warmer weather brought new growth. He followed Stoneteller to where Fluttering Bird lay. Quiet Rain stood beside her, flexing her claws impatiently. Looking into her eyes, Greymane saw how desperate she was, already sick with grief for her daughter. Stoneteller bent over the tiny kit and rested one paw on her chest to feel her breathing and her heartbeat. Chewing up one of the leaves, Stoneteller pried open the kit's jaws and pushed the pulp into her tongue. Come on, little one, she murmured. Swallow this, it'll make you feel better. But Fluttering Bird stayed still. She didn't even open her eyes. Looking up at Quiet Rain, Stoneteller whispered, She is far, far away from us. The hunger inside her is too great. You must prepare yourself, Quiet Rain. Greymane's mother crouched down, her claws scraping on the stone floor of the cave. This is my fault, she mewed. I should have given her all my food. What was I thinking, having kids in the cold season? His heart swelling with grief, Greymane paddled over to Quiet Rain and pressed himself close to her. It isn't your fault, he mewed. I should have. Stoneteller interrupted Quiet Rain with raised paw. Hush, Quiet Rain. Floating Bird might be able to hear you. Don't let her go into the dark knowing that you're scared and angry. Greymane could see the massive effort his mother made to calm herself. She slid into the sleeping hollow and curled herself around Floating Bird, giving her comforting licks. I'm so proud of you, my only daughter, she murmured. You mean so much to all of us. We will never forget you. Misery swept over Greymane as he watched. His sister's flank rose once more, then was still. Goodbye, Floating Bird, he whispered. Stoneteller dipped her head to Quiet Rain and padded away toward her tunnel. Greymane turned back to his mother. Do you want me to help you take Floating Bird outside and bury her? He asked. Quiet Rain curled herself more closely around her daughter's body. Not well. Her fur is still warm, she replied. Please, go and fetch Jagapeek for me. Greymane glanced around and spotted Jagapeek at the far side of the cave, playing with some of the other kids. He raced over and beckoned his mother with a flick of his tail. What is it? Jagapeek asked, looking up from where he was wrestling with a tabby she-cat. Our mother wants you, Greymane replied. Jagapeek scrambled to his paws and trotted across the cavern to the sleeping hollow. Quiet Rain spoke quietly to Jagapeek. He stared at her, then opened his jaws in a shrill wail. Quiet Rain stretched out her tail and pulled Jagapeek to her. Pain stabbed through Greymane like a spike of icy rock as he watched her holding both her kids close, one dead and one alive, her nose buried in their fur. He wondered if she would ever let Jagapeek go again. Greymane turned toward the cave entrance at the sound of voices and saw Shade and Moss returning with Clear Sky and the others who had gone to look for a route away from the mountains. It was great, Clear Sky shook himself, scattering melting snow everywhere. We found the path we should take. It runs along the side of the valley, Shade and Moss meowed, sounding more cautious. It leads to a gap that should take us clear of the mountains. There's a frozen stream at one point that we'll have to cross, and we'll need to be careful. But it's still the quickest route, Turtletail interrupted with an enthusiastic wave of her tail. It looks like it, Shade and Mouse agreed, and with any luck, we'll avoid the drips farther down. While the other cats crowded around to question Shade and Mouse, Greymane padded up and touched Clear Sky on his shoulder with his tail tip. Clear Sky glanced around, spotting Quiet Rain in her sleeping hollow with the two kits. His eyes widened. What happened? He asked. Floating Bird is dead, Greymane told him. Clear Sky paused for a heartbeat with a sharp indrawn breath, then bounded across the cave to his mother's side. Greymane headed him after him more slowly. I'm so sorry, Clear Sky exclaimed, bending his head to touch his nose to his sister's ear. Floating Bird will miss you so much. Shrinking up, he looked down at his mother and added, This will never happen when we reach a new home. If you join us, we'll protect you and hunt for you for the rest of our life. Please come. Quiet Rain shook her head. I will never leave my daughter here alone. Rising from the sleeping hollow, she allowed Greymane and Clear Sky to pick up Floating Bird's tiny, twig-like body and carry her out of the cave. The other cats fell back and formed a respectful line on either side as they headed for the entrance and along the ledge that led behind the waterfall. Quiet Rain and Jagapeek followed as they maneuvered Floating Bird's body along the narrow path. Drops of water landed on her fur. Greymane winced when he realized that she would never be able to lick them off. Climbing carefully over the icy rocks, they made their way to the plateau above the cave and set Floating Bird down beside the river. Greymane and Clear Sky scraped away small stones and frozen soil to make a shallow pool, and Quiet Rain laid the tiny kit inside. She touched her nose to her daughter's fur one last time, then stepped back while her sons covered the body with earth and larger stones. For a moment, all four cats stood beside the grave, with their heads bowed. Jagapeek was the first to move, turning around to stare in amazement at the vista of mountains that stretched away on all sides. His eyes were huge and his fur bushed out. He looked tiny against the boulders. Have you been to all those peaks? He asked in a hushed voice. Not all of them. Clear Sky moved to stand beside him, pointing with his tail. There's a gap in the mountains we'll be aiming for when we leave. Jagged Pete's eyes grew even wider. I wish I was coming too, he meowed. Don't talk nonsense, little one. And Quiet Rain patted up and laid her tail across the kid's back. You've been out long enough for your first time. Back to the cave with you. But I don't want to go back inside, Jagged Peak protested. There's too much to see. Clear Sky gave his younger brother a friendly nudge. You can see it another day. The mountains don't move. Now show us how well you can climb down the rocks. Still grumbling, Jagged Peak followed his brother. Roaring stood for a moment at the cliff's edge, gazing out at the cold sweep of the mountains. Rage was slowly building inside him like a storm cloud. How could such a beautiful place be so cruel? But the sharpest edge of his anger was directed at himself. I should have caught more prey. I shouldn't have let floating birds starve. He became aware that Quiet Rain had come to stand beside him. This is a cruel place, she sighed, echoing his thoughts. But it's my home, for better or worse. I won't let this happen again, Greywing yelled, his voice rough with grief and fury. There must be better ways of hunting me. You have to leave, Quiet Rain interrupted. Jagged Peak is too small for such a journey, but you must go with Clear Sky to find a better place to live. I don't want to have to watch your kids die too. Greywing stared at her, astounded. But I thought you wanted me to stay, he exclaimed. Quiet Rain gazed back at him steadily, her eyes full of sorrow. I love you too much for that, she mewed. For my sake, go. This little beat is from this harmonica my aunt got me, and this is from Fluttering Bird. And I will be using this every time there is a death in this book.